What is up, Pod Nation? Welcome to the Podioslave podcast. My name is Nate. I'm here with my two homies. You know what? I kind of feel like the podcast is like a 2022 version of like public access television, music version, just geeking out. So we're here to chat music.
I thought you were going to say NPR Nate is back because you started NPR Nate and then you kind of got into Headbangers Ball Nate.
A little bit of both.
NPR Nate and public access Nate are the same person. That's
the
what I
same
want to know.
fucking guy.
It's like a Tyler Durden situation. Like, who am I?
Hey, sticking feathers in your ass does not make you a chicken, Nate.
Hashtag Fight Club drink.
Yeah. So yeah, right. We haven't talked Fight Club in a while. Three dudes in their 30s just talking Fight Club. No, man, we are back. I'm Tony. I know maybe you know that, maybe you don't. We're back talking music like we always do. 113 episodes kind of blows me away. The fact that this number just climbs every week and we continue to put stuff out is really cool. And we're sorry we didn't put an episode out last week, and we wanted to, but we had put out 2 the week before, and they were so damn good we wanted them to like breathe and stand alone. So thank you for checking us out and coming back.
And you know how we talk about 3 album runs? Well, we had a 4 interview run, right? We had Mike Hartsfield 109, Casey Cavalier 110, Sergio Vega, not sure if you've ever heard of that dude, 111, and then last week we had the Out of Service guys. So that's I think that's the most we've had in a row, right?
In a row, yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a new record for us. It kind of shows where we're going. A lot of backlog on amazing talent and a lot in the works. We got some. Like we actually, before we jumped on earlier, we had some interesting conversations with with an individual about future episodes. So there's so many things going on behind the scenes. Like I'm nerding out on our own nerdery. Let's put it that way.
I know, isn't that wild? Like to be like. It was one thing when we were doing Tour Time Machine on episode 2, and we're like, man, I would have loved to see Led Zeppelin in fucking England in 1970, whatever. But now I'm like, man, I love what we're doing. This is fucking cool.
And you know what? Those episodes still get love. We get all those metrics, and whoever's checking out that back stuff, hopefully you're still with us and you haven't run for the hills, because I think we've kind of stepped it up a little bit with guests and whatnot. But
we sound better.
And we sound better.
We're better at it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think those early episodes, I think, Nate, did you record from a well?
He did.
Oh, man.
Nate in the well.
Talk about like relating with bands on like early demo tapes. Like I was like, duh, like don't listen to that shit. But it's out there, so check it out. We've grown. I've gotten gray hair since then, and so I was a young buck then. That was pandemic. Now we're out of it, kind of.
Well, yeah, right. I mean,
Kinda.
It's never going anywhere, but yeah, we're in a little bit more of a positive state of mind as far as the music stuff goes, and bands getting out there and artists getting out there to tour again. We saw our friend Scott Alderman, episode 104 fame. His Tattoo the Earth is a 1-day show in August now, right? That's popped off. With Hatebreed and Anthrax and Black Label Society and others. That's going to be exciting. Hopefully we can get down to that. But yeah, it's tours are back, shows are back, artists are available to talk about stuff like that. It's been pretty wild for us.
And that's actually what I love about this podcast. Like when we have bands on and band members on, I like hyper focus on what they're going to do in the future. So like we just had Casey on and he kind of hinted at a new Wonder Years album. And we just kind of left it at that. We should have dove into that. But they have a new record coming out, right? Yeah. And, Sergio's got this project. So I'm looking out for that. Scott's got this Tattoo the Earth date in Massachusetts. I'm going to look out for that. Greg, maybe a reunion with Zebrahead? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
we wish, but yeah.
No, that's a good point. We get a lot of inside tips on the podcast, but sometimes we're surprised equally as fans. We're like, they didn't mention it on the podcast. But, we don't prod and, poke too much. We just let them come on and geek out with us. But sometimes they don't actually tell us what's ahead. So we're like equally surprised to see the press release, almost like a band breaking up and finding out from MTV News. It's like, oh, shit, I'm out of the band. Like, oh, shit, this guy's on and they're putting out a new record. Like, happens all the time.
Well, that, and we should have dug down on that. We were in the middle of we wanted to hear about the tour and how that went for him and the band and the bands that they took out with them, Spanish Love Songs and bands that we love. And we just wanted to hear more about that. And I wish we had drilled down like, oh, new record, huh? And I mean, like 3 days after the song that comes out, the new song comes out, which is a banger, by the way.
Well, that's like take Furnace Fest. It's in September in Birmingham, Alabama. Shadows Falls playing, Quicksand's playing, and As Friends Rust. So there's like some Podioslave alums. It's like, well, I kind of want to go to that. I mean,
know,
I
right?
obviously want to go to that, but I really want to go to it.
Yeah. Podioslave alums. I love that term.
Oh man, just the podcast being part of a festival, in the fabric of the festival. I feel like that would be cool for our future at some point, just to help promote or whatever it is. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm actually I'm skimming the lineup to see if there's anyone else. Like, I don't think the Moby Life's playing.
No, but they're playing that show in Worcester, right? In like a
That's
month.
right.
Yeah.
Sticks and Stones Fest. Yeah.
Yeah, with
nice.
Newfound Glory and oh man, who else is on that? A bunch. Maddie's on that too.
Maddie. Yeah.
Lost for Words. Yeah. So.
Piebald. A few others. Yeah.
So yeah, we've got alums playing stuff all over the place this summer, and it's really pretty fucking awesome that we're able to talk to these folks and talk to you guys every week and put an episode out every week for people to listen to and to nerd out with us, because we're along for this awesome fucking ride, and we're happy that anybody is along for it with us.
That was our indirect kind of pitch and promo to check out our back catalog.
Yep. Go do that. There's plenty of good stuff there.
And well, speaking of shows, we are digging all the stuff that's being announced in Real Time Drink. It's a big soft opening, I think. I think last year was kind of the soft opening. This is a phase 2 of the soft opening for live shows coming back, so we're super stoked. And with that comes something that we all geek out on, which is the set list. So tonight we're going to dive deep into the anatomy of a set list. This was a kind of a geek moment prepping for, so it's kind of cool. What do you guys think about this one?
I've spent so much time thinking about this.
Yeah.
In terms of, all right, this is nerd shit. So I thought of like legacy bands that have been around for 30 years. Like, what's a perfect set list length? Take a band that's been around for 25 years who's kind of in that middle tier, like a Thrice. What's a perfect set list for them? Then take maybe a newer band. What's a good set list for them? In terms of, so I've thought of it in terms of length. When is it appropriate for an encore? If you're an opener, how many songs should you get? I mean, we can go so many layers with this, and that's where my head was like for the last few days.
Totally, and it's fun to think about whether they're a new band or whether they're a band that's a legacy act that's been around for, say, 30 years at the time that you're seeing them. Because I've got a band or an artist that kind of fits this, that the set list is amazing because there's so much to pull from. But like if you're a band that's got one record out and maybe an EP before that, there's less to pull from. So it's certainly interesting depending on the show you're at, and there's so many different ways that you could take this genre. Hip hop, you might get a medley. You're maybe not going to get a medley in a metal show. You know what I mean? Like it's that kind of stuff is what makes a perfect set list. It depends on the night, but at the same time, there are things that we think are probably hallmarks for, perfect set list and perfect evening at a concert for a band that you love.
So let's maybe start it off. What is the perfect length? And we can layer it. So like take, I don't know, Red Hot Chili Peppers. If you saw them, what is the threshold where you're like, all right, I got my money's worth?
22 songs.
That's you personally?
Yeah.
Or is that what they play?
No, that's my, I think 22, and you could, plus or minus 3. You could get an encore and make it 25, or it could be 19 with an encore of 3 type of deal.
Yeah, you're doing it by song rather than actual length, which is
it'd be an hour and 45 minutes probably for that?
Yeah, I was going to say that's probably like an hour and a half, which I think I agree with that. You kind of get the hits, leave some room in for some improv, especially with John back into the fold. Yeah, we're older now, right? So it's like there's a different, bringing this subject up now in our mid to late 30s is different than like my early 20s where I'm like, play for 5 hours. I don't care.
Right.
Yeah. So an hour and a half for any band is kind of like a sweet spot because you're like, all right, I'm still going to get home at a relatively good time. And
can I sit down and can I be in bed at a relatively good time?
Yeah. Are there enough filler songs to take a pee kind of thing?
Yeah.
22 though? You said, Nate.
You want more? All right, I want more too. You're right.
Well, no, not necessarily. No. No, you said, Nate, that leaves room for the hits. Does it though? With a band like that. So let's like put Pearl Jam, Red Hot Chili Peppers, like that tier. I think you got to be in the 24, and all these dudes are getting old.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's that kind of narrative. on the flip side, if I got an 18-song set list from either of those bands, I'd feel cheated.
Yeah, agreed.
Oh, yeah.
Especially ticket prices nowadays. I mean, those are going to be close to triple digit depending on where you are, where you're seeing them. You better hit 22 songs. You know what I mean? Like, come on, guys.
Yeah. Actually, that's a great point. I think Legacy Act-wise, not only do you have the back catalog to make a giant set list, but the price point for that ticket's so expensive that that's when I'm kind of like game for A, I'm going to go in late tomorrow, or B, like, they have so much to choose from. There's a lot I want to hear in the first place. So, Pearl Jam's a great example. They switch up the set list every night. So I'm almost expecting a unique set list first and foremost, but secondly, like, it's not a cheap ticket. And, Mike is a great guitarist. He does a lot of soloing and so forth. So it's like, all right, so I should be getting hopefully at least 35 songs.
35?
I know that's a big ask, but that's like their average, so they're kind of like Grateful Dead
really?
style. Yeah, they play a lot. They play a long
Wow.
and varied set lists on every night. So that's why I booked the tour back in 2020.
We haven't talked about the tour in a while. Yeah, Nate, tell everybody, new listeners, tell them what what the tour consisted of.
So, what I mean by booking the tour, to give additional context to anyone just tuning in and not checking out our demo tapes from early pandemic, is I'm a big fan, been a fan since 97, I think. And one of my kind of bucket list items was to follow them on a leg of their tour. It never happened, never had the money or the time. Now, as Skull Alderman would say, I have the money and the time, so let's do it. Or I did in 2020, at least, pre-pandemic. So I booked shows for San Diego, both LA, Phoenix, and both Oakland, the Bay Area. Fast forward to 2022, I can make 3 out of those shows. So I got to offload the rest. But yeah, I'm going to catch them on this tour that kicks off, this week. So I'm pretty excited for that. They play a different set list every night. One of the few bands that actually does that, which is a tough task. It's a big ask for the band to rehearse essentially their whole back catalog and be tight in the same extent, but and have Eddie's voice hold up that whole time. He's pretty old now, so yeah, it's incredible.
But they do it, right? I mean, they do it. Yeah, they're one of the bands that can pull that off and continue to be able to pull that off, which is wild.
It is wild. It's phenomenal to see. In between songs, Eddie tells stories about the songs or about the area. And actually, this is kind of a tangent, but great for the set list, because Eddie actually sound checks, does different songs that he was going to play on the set list that he builds without the band's consent, which is a little controversial. He just builds a set list and the band just has to oblige to it. Like, yeah, this is what we're playing tonight. And the band's like, oh, fuck. But additionally, he gets a vibe for the room, the day, and the city, and takes notes on what is the most conducive to that environment, whether it be the sports team or the language. If he plays in Italy or whatever, he'll actually speak to the crowd in between songs in Italian kind of thing, which is super cool. So really unique in the fact that he makes it special every night. I've never seen any other band do that. It's actually why there's such a huge legacy of fans that like will follow them, because it's like, oh, I'm really like, speaking of money's worth, you're getting your money's worth. You see them in Germany, he's going to speak German.
Well, didn't we talk about this with Benny Horowitz?
Mm-hmm.
Did we?
Yeah,
Okay,
with Pearl Jam, that it's like it's tailored. It's tailored to the show. It's tailored to the venue. I'm sure the size of the crowd, the location, all that. Which I feel like you have to be that level to do that.
Oh, it's so unique to them, and maybe Bruce Springsteen, and I mean only a few others that I can think of that at least switch the night set list every night. There's some bands that are of that stature.
Petty did it too, I think, back in the day. Yeah. Rest in peace. But it doesn't happen a lot with legacy acts like that. It's pretty wild that they're able to do what they've been able to do for as long as they've been able to do it. 30 plus years now.
Yeah, I mean, just for the band to be rehearsed to play any song in their back catalog, including covers, it's like, wow, what? Like, unbelievable.
And I mean, on the bigger scale, talking set lists like that, you don't get that from a lot of bands that are legacy acts. Like, sometimes you're going to get that cookie cutter 21 songs, 2-song encore, we'll see you next time. And it's the same set list everywhere, every night. And as fans, that probably bothers me. I don't know if it bothers you guys, but like if I know ahead of time I'm going to get the same thing that, New York got last night or Boston got last night, I'm going to be like, damn, man, I saw this was coming. Can't you throw something different in here and there just to spice things up?
Well, that feeds into a question that I'm curious of what you guys think about, which is the presence of the internet and sites like setlist.fm. You know exactly what they're playing. Like, I'm guilty of this. Like, when I saw Slipknot a few years ago, I made a playlist on Spotify of the set list that they had been playing. So I could refamiliarize myself with maybe some of the deep cuts or songs I was not as familiar with. But yeah, I don't like that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know, if it's the same set list every stop, it's like, man, we're interchangeable at that point as fans. You know, and that's kind of harsh to say, but like, you know, why follow the tour? And I know a lot of people still do.
Yeah. It would become robotic, right? I mean,
Yeah.
and I get, and we've talked to Greg about this. Our friend Greg Bergdorf, he's been on 4 episodes. Go back and check those out. We talked to him about it, and picking set lists is not the easiest thing because you have to. There is some fan service into going into each venue, each city, and playing 3 or 4 of the same songs because they're the hits and they need to be in the set list. Do they need to be in the same spot every time? Maybe, maybe not. Depends on what the song is. Depends on how that works. But you've got to play. Most bands probably roll in that have had 5 or 6 records, have been around for a while. They're gonna play 5 or 6 of those songs every night. They have to. Where it gets dicey for fans like us, especially with the internet and being able to see all of it, is that stuff becomes cookie cutter generic, and you're like, man, I saw this show. Like Nate, we saw Green Day in, oh boy, April of what, 06, and then or 07, and then fall of 07, and they played the same set.
Yep.
On the same tour. It was inside the Civic Center in Portland, Maine, and then at Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, Mass, and nothing changed. And I was like, damn, man, like it was cool to see it on the bigger stage, but this is the show we saw in Portland 4 months ago. So kind of a bummer to go see him more than once.
Yeah, it's a good question. I've thought about this question so many times over the years, and the more I've geeked out, especially being part of the scene a little bit, at least the venue, and even guests that we've had on, is it's twofold. A, like as a fan, sometimes for a while I didn't even check Setlist FM to be surprised, like to be legitimately surprised, right? Mm-hmm. Now fast forward to present, it's like I kind of want to know, mainly for those P songs. And like you said, check out the Spotify. For me, I didn't make the Spotify playlist, but someone else usually makes the playlist, so I guess that's you. For that tour, and I'm like, sweet, I'll get warmed up for the show, perfect. But there's the real element to why that happens, which I start to give the bands more credit more than I used to, because I used to think, man, that's robotic. You must get burnt out playing a, Broadway or Vegas show for a, 50-date national tour. That must get super old. But there's another element to that, which is the production and the lighting and everything that goes into that is synchronized to the songs. So you really don't really have much of an opportunity to just be a Pearl Jam and just wing a random deep cut from 1992. So if you don't have the production and your stage setup is just the stage and the band that's already pretty energetic and that is the ticket price, then that's one thing. If you're a band where the production is part of the show, like Slipknot, you really don't have much of an option, which is too bad. So there's a take and give there. And I think that can work for or against you. For you, because obviously your set is extremely tight, especially midway to completion. Beginning might be pretty tough. The downside also for the band is the fact that you are going through that robotic motion where it's like the end of a national tour playing the same set list every night. I just can only imagine that must be just really shitty, towards the end. Like, I can't wait to fucking get home. This sucks, but we made a lot of money.
It's Groundhog's Day, right? They're getting up every day and they're doing the same thing in a different venue and hitting the same beats and maybe saying the same thing to the crowd in the right spot. It must get tough.
Yeah.
So Nate, there's as you would say, a lot to unpack there.
You said a lot there, Nate.
You said.
I'm talking really fast too.
So I think a couple things. One is we are the nerds, though, that recognize the production element. The average fan would never think about that, about the stage show and the production and all that goes into that, where even to switch a song out is probably, no pun intended, a big production. So there's that part of it. But then there's the part of like, this gets back to what you were saying, Tone, which is the whole Greg Bergdorf thing is you literally cannot please everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So it's are you selfish and play the deep cuts that kind of you want to play, or do you just cater to the cookie, the cookie cutter, top 40 crowd, and you hit all those, and all the legacy deep cut fans are pissed, So I don't know what the medium is there, but I think you got to mix it up. Like this is a real life example. Deftones are on tour. I'm seeing them in 3 weeks. everything I can tell, and I know there's dynamics going on behind the scenes. I'm sure people got to learn songs, all that stuff, but the set list looks the same. And I know the exact sequence, and I've watched all those videos, which is on me on YouTube. I think I'm better off without knowing the set list.
Right.
I think.
Yeah, that piece is tough. But at the same time, like reading a set list on Setlist FM and then being in the room where they're playing, one of the new songs off Ohms, you're gonna be like, "Fuck yeah!" Like this is awesome.
It's a whole different. Yeah, it's
so
true.
you'll enjoy that, and you're right. There is dynamics behind the scenes. We may or may not have talked to their former bassist 2 episodes back. Go back and listen to that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's out there, but and he's awesome too. So they're doing what they can with what they have. First time they've toured in 4 years, so kind of wild to have the back catalog they do, and then have somebody new on bass trying to figure out, where do I fit? What do I do? What do I play? Can we hone this down to 20 songs or 19 songs so that I have a chance? Because if it's 50 and I got to fucking draw from that well every night, there's no chance. And so there's interband dynamics that we don't even know about half the time.
Right.
And that's a thing that we pay attention to, but not everybody does.
Exactly. You some of the big examples are very public, where like bands don't like an album, or there's a mass exodus of members after an album or a major label release or whatever. But what we don't hear about is the ones we don't hear about. So
Right.
There could be albums that people in bands think suck, or, hey, that was our sellout album. We ain't playing anything from that.
Mm-hmm.
It's the whole Thrice Deadbolt thing. Like, they look at their old stuff as demos and they just won't play it. But I think they are at Furnace Fest, so.
Well, and people will be wearing the shirt that they made. I've seen Thrice play Deadbolt 1,000 times or whatever, 10,000 times, whatever the number is. So they have a little tongue in cheek about it, which, to turn it into merch, that's brilliant.
Right.
Good job. Good on you guys. Like that's great, Dustin and company. That's smart.
We'll call you out for bitching about it, but we'll capitalize on it.
Yeah, exactly. You should.
You should.
Yeah, I think this question in particular is just such a one of high contention, just because there's only so many bands that can pull that off. The Pearl Jam I had to mention because they're doing it. They've always done it. It's amazing. The only other ones that I can really think of on the top of that in my head were Grateful Dead, Fish, and I guess Van Morrison. I just read this earlier when I was prepping for this. I guess Van Morrison.
Bruce used to
and
do
the
it.
Boss.
Yeah, he still does it.
He still does it. And then Van Morrison, I guess I just read this today. He doesn't even make a set list. He just plays. He has not completely unscripted, which is kind of cool. Which must be tough for the sound and lighting crew. They're like, okay.
Yeah, that's definitely gonna be tough, because that if you have sound and lighting and changes in that piece of the show, you can't really do that. But if you don't, it's just you're a performer, you're out there. Maybe there's some lights just going as the songs are going. Like no one's really paying a ton of attention to it. That's another way to do it. Dave Matthews does too. They play all kinds of shit. Like they're another band that, they're borderline jam for a pop rock band. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah. So I think the moral of the story on interchangeable set lists and duration is just the fact that you kind of have to be a legacy act to pull from a catalog, but B, have an audience that has the bandwidth to sit around and hang out for that long. Like a crowd that's in their early 20s, it's not going to be chilling for 4 hours on a jam set. Maybe I could be stereotyping here, but for the most part, like, things are pretty Amazon speed these days. So,
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Let's use Pearl Jam as an example. They put out Gigaton in 2020. Let's just say they have a 28 song set. What's an acceptable amount of songs to play from that album? Knowing their legacy catalog that, again, you're going to piss anyone off depending on what songs you pick. How many new songs is acceptable?
That's a great question. I think that varies from release to release. So Gigaton, for instance, I think most Pearl Jam fans will agree it's not their strongest effort. So for that reason, like if it was like a full-on banger album, front to back album, I think people would be like, hey, play as much as you can. But it's almost like universally known that that's a good record, but like you always say, Twan, it's bookended by like some amazing works of art and like kind of like their height of their success. So like, what are you going to do? So I think any new release, that one included, I'd say 3 songs is probably like a good support for a legacy act, because you're really just putting out an album as a regular cadence. And it is, in theory, it is supposed to promote that album. But they're such a legacy act that, they're just putting out albums because that's what they do. But ultimately, people are going to see songs from 91 to, 2001 or 2011 or 2021.
Right. Yeah.
So I'd say 3 is safe for me, at least.
Yeah, 3, and then like maybe change them up from night to night. That'd be kind of cool too. Like you're catching them, especially if you're a legacy fan and you're following them like you planned to do, Nate, in 2020 before the world ended. You got three songs in San Diego, and then the rest of the set, which was also mix and match from their catalog, and then you go up to the Bay Area and you get 3 different songs or 2 different songs and one that they played, in San Diego, and then again mix and match from the legacy, the catalog. That is a cool way to do it, and I think they're a band that could pull that off. If you've got less music, you're probably going to mix in, like say you got 2 records, you're probably going to be half new, right? And you're probably going to open with a new track that you think is a banger, will get the people going. But if you're a legacy act like Pearl Jam, yeah, probably 3.
And the other variable is if the album is out already. I think if the album's out,
True. Yeah.
I think you cap it at 3. For a band like that, again, it's all variable. If the album's not out, 2 max. If you're digging into like 4 songs that no one's ever heard of, I think you're being a little selfish, especially for an act like that.
And hasn't even had a chance to listen to because they're not out yet.
Right.
Yeah. Then you're actually leaking the album, really, right?
Right.
It's true. Yeah. No, that's a good question, and I think it kind of leads me to, let's talk a smaller band. Somebody in the we've got 3 records out, and we're touring off the 3rd record. Like that becomes a little more dicey. Like you've got less to pull from. You're not going to change your set list as much because you don't have as many songs to make flow the way maybe you want to, and you're going to want to work in new stuff because you probably get a fan base that if you're on album 3. Probably built a fan base that's ready to come see you and wants to hear stuff off albums 1 and 2, and then excited to hear maybe a new song or 2. So say you've got a 18-song set list from a band with 3 records. They're going to play an hour and a half, and that's going to be it because that's what the slot they got. 3 new songs, maybe, right?
Right. Yeah. I'd cap it at that. I'd cap it at 3, and anything more. I mean, we've always joked about it, like, oh, new song, I'm gonna go take a piss. That's
yeah, right.
And especially in some venue, I remember. This is a tangent. When I used to go to Port City Music Hall quite a bit in Portland, the bathroom was downstairs. So you would like plan for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
So as soon as I heard new song, I'm sprinting down there.
Look, I've got 3.5 minutes. I gotta go.
I gotta go.
Down the stairs, find the bathroom. Hopefully there's not a line, right? Get back upstairs, maybe get a beer on the way back in, although the bar was right there, which was nice. But yeah, RIP Port City, man. I miss that spot.
Man.
We truly are coming from a fan perspective because when you were mentioning that, I was just thinking, well, for the band, like they toured off the 1st and 2nd record heavily. So like they're ready to play new shit because they're like, they've played those old songs so many times. So like, we want to like get these new songs road tested and tried and true rather than just circle back to what we've done. So it's almost like, too bad, fans, like you should have been to the 1st and 2nd tour, or maybe you did, but if it's your first time, like too bad.
Well, this leads us back to Thrice, which is kind of funny, and I wasn't planning on this, but seeing them open for The Used at the State Theater in 2003, I think spring of 2003, I think all 3 of us were there. They opened for The Used and had a new record out that was popping off, The Artist in the Ambulance, and they had a couple records behind that, and they played like 9 songs or 10 songs, and I think most of them were new. So they were a support who was starting to make a name for themselves off The Artist in the Ambulance, and they leaned into that heavy, which was pretty interesting at the time. And in the moment, I was like, bro, I want to see The Used. Like, stop playing me new songs. All That's Left was cool. I was excited about that. Looking back on it now, I wish I had paid more attention because I ended up liking Thrice more down the line. I mean, I like The Used too, but Thrice has been a band that I've spent way more time with over the years. So I wish I'd spent more, pay attention when that's happening. Maybe don't go take that piss,
Right. And that example just shows that every band truly is different. I mean, if you think about the trajectory of Thrice, they've always kind of looked forward rather than looking back.
Yep.
And they had just signed to Island. And again, this is like hyper focused on this scenario, but they had just signed to a major. Want to get those songs out there. Bigger soundscapes. The production on that was great. They wanted to get that out there. So I understand that. But if you went as a Identity Crisis fan to that show, you were probably you probably left pissed off because I don't think they played anything, and that wasn't even that far removed. That was like 4 years removed, 5 years removed.
I love that band though. They continue to put out good records.
It's funny, in our conversation last week with Out of Service, when they just talked about the quiet part sounding quiet and the loud part sounding loud, like I thought of like the second half of the Thrice catalog. Like that's what they do.
Yep. And they play with bluesy a little bit. They play with electronic a little bit. They've done a really good job of reinventing themselves. A tangent, obviously. We're not going to go super deep into Thrice love here, but yeah, they're a fun band to listen to, especially, you know, from the Artist in the Ambulance on, because that record is vastly different from what they're doing today.
All right, so I got a question too. This is a little off the cuff for set lists, and it's different versions of songs, yes or no? Like it's on the set list, you're stoked, you're about to hear it.
Great question.
Different variation of that song or original only?
Mix it up. My like, without even thinking about it, mix it up, you know? And again, a lot of this channels back to Greg. Like, didn't Greg, like, I feel like in one of those early conversations, he was like, sometimes you just kind of finagle it live. Am I making that up? Or
that was that was our Wheel of Touring episode. I think was 64, and I'm not looking. I think that was it.
If you had tone dating back to a very specific episode, drink.
Yeah, go listen to that episode. It's good.
Well, because I think I'm trying to think of that conversation where it was like, some people might know, like, man, I'm really struggling with the memory.
Some tour magic was the words he was using.
Magic. There you go.
Yeah, we may not always be able to play it the way it sounds on the record, so you're going to get a little tour magic.
There you go. So that's maybe a variation of this, Nate, you know, where you get the live version, which is maybe not as complex, but then you have the true virtuosos, as we say, that really just take it in a different direction, whether it's a solo or, you know, whatever it is. I'm in favor of it. It mixes it up. Yeah, I'm in.
Ooh, you asked this question, Nate, and I immediately had a band come to mind, and it's the front man, and it's sometimes the way he sings the lyrics, sometimes it's the lyrics he uses altogether. They get changed. Who am I thinking of?
Tom DeLonge?
No. But I mean, yes, for different reasons. But no, I'm talking Adam Duritz. It's Counting Crows. Them live versus what you hear on the record, almost always different, or changed a little bit, and a lot of it is his doing. And I think when I was younger, I hated it, and now that I'm a little older and I'm a little more understanding of the way this all works and doing the same thing every night. Say you have the same set list every night. If you're doing something like that and you get a different version around here, you know, in Boston than you would have gotten in, say, Philadelphia the next night, but they're playing it in the same spot and it fits there. It's cool because he gets to rearrange what they're doing every night, even though they're doing something similar. So I get that from the artist side, and I also get that from, it's cool to hear it different, a different arrangement, a different way to do it. Maybe a lyric that he wanted to put in years ago and never was able to and gets to play around with it live. These things are works of art, right? So changing them here and there isn't a bad thing.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I think this question, even as I wrote it down, I was like being pulled in two different directions because I've seen so many bands and so many artists that were doing variations of the show back in the day. And I was like thinking like Tucker Rule when he was on, like the fan wants to see it played exactly how it is on the record. And I think I stood by that up until maybe like a few months ago. And even with the context that you guys provided where it's like, switch it up. You know, I'm older now. Like I've already heard it that many times in show on the record. Like now I'm older and now I don't really care. And now I think it's cool that there's some artistic freedom to switch it up or put a solo. So I think really ultimately it's like play it differently if it elevates it. You know, if you can add some improv John Bonham style to the drums, like Tucker, go for it, man. Like, you know, we already know you're talented. We have already heard it. So therefore, you know, now's the time because you recorded that album so long ago and maybe you've become more technical since then. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. But one recording where I was like kind of floored on the different variation was Incubus has a DVD called Live at Red Rocks. And there's a version of Drive on there, which is like drop D, like heavy bass. And I remember thinking like, this is such a different version of this song, but like Drive was so overplayed that this is kind of like a rebirth of this song. And Ben Kenny had just joined from The Roots and it was like, damn, this is a fucking vibe. Like, and that was part of my decision changing, like, okay, like it is good to change it up even though you want to hear it like you did on the record. So
No, it's funny. I think we're all kind of saying the same thing. When I was younger and when I would hear a vocalist, like if there was a city mentioned in the song and they swapped it out for like Portland, I was like, oh, that's playing in the crowd, blah, 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 gets the crowd wild. Well, that's what it was intended to do. That's why
Right.
they did it. It got a rise. And now as I'm older, I'm like, this motherfucker's on a 30-date tour playing the same set list, which probably they can't control. Let's factor in. There could be some agreement with labels and all that where you have to play legacy, so you have to play so much new stuff. Factoring in all that and everything we've just spoke about for the last half hour, like I get it, and it works too. And that's a way to mix it up when in an era where set lists are the same every night.
Yeah, definitely. You said that, and it reminded me of an Atmosphere show in Portland, I think 2007, where our buddy Nate in North Carolina tried to hand slug a beer on stage at the Asylum, which was at the time tiny. It's now Aura. It's a little bigger. It's got a stage and all that and seats, but back then it was this tiny little club, and you could get all the way to the front, and Nate he's tall, he reached his hand up and tried to hand slug a beer, and he was in the middle of a freestyle and just toss something out about that moment, like I'd rather thanks for that beer, but I'd rather talk to these Northeastern girls or whatever. And it was just funny.
Nice.
And it was off the cuff, and it was like, this is only happening tonight. That's kind of cool.
Right.
That is cool.
Yes. And I feel like, I don't know, we've been all going to shows since like probably the late 90s. And one thing that I always like try to keep in my mind is like, we have this band for one night. Like this is our night. And if they don't bend any at all to cater to this night in Portland, Maine, or Augusta or Boston, like they're just going through the routine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're just checking a box. And that's when it gets, unfortunately, I think that's when you see a lot of bands move on and members swap out. But like, yeah, throw some references. Hey, we ate at Jay's Oyster Bar. Like throw some of the,
Yep.
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Just like, hey, I love your city, anything like that. And when I was younger, I was like, well, they're just playing into the audience. Well, yeah, but it shows they're human.
Mm-hmm. Or like Vinny Caruana telling us that he had lobster for the first time in Portland, Maine, and then had to hide it from his tour mate because he was vegan. Like, just kind of wild stuff. Like that's cool.
And he freed him, and he freed the lobster.
He freed the lobsters,
in
yeah.
Casco Bay.
Yeah. They've been since caught, I'm sure.
Right. Yeah. Thanks, Feldman, but yeah, those lobsters have
You
been
did the best you
consumed.
could. Somebody else ate them.
And they were delicious.
Yeah, they are pretty good.
That's a Jim Gaffigan.
Yeah. But no, that's a good point. Like getting them for one night, if you're going through the motions, fans can probably tell, especially if they've seen you before. And at the same time, if you get something that is kind of catered to that town, even if it's a little canned, people love it. People want it. They want to be catered to. They paid good money to come see you play a show. Throw them a tiny bone here and there, right?
Well, who did we have on that said the front man fucked up the town?
Oh,
Was
man.
that Greg and Justin? Was that?
It might have been way back.
What was
yeah.
that story? Man, we've done too many
Done
of these.
too many of these, man. 2+
I can't
years.
remember.
Hundreds of hours of talking.
I think it was the tour Wheel of Touring episode. There was some story in there where, or maybe it was the opening band. I can't remember. Go back, listen to that episode. Tell us what it was.
Yeah. Let us know. You get a free sticker.
Yeah, we got a few of those left. They're really cool. They're tickets. Check it out. They're pretty badass. And we got other stuff coming in the pipeline too. So, all right, we've tackled how many songs, especially if it's legacy versus smaller band. We've tackled where do you play new stuff? How do you play new stuff? What do you do if it's new? And then do you open with a banger, or this is the one that I've been struggling with all day? Do you open with a banger, something everybody knows? Or do you play something new to start that might be a banger that people are gonna be like, "Damn, that got us going"? But it's just okay. We're getting to our seats. We came from the bathroom. We came from the beer line. They're on. It gives people a chance to get there. Do you do that first, or do you play a banger to jump right off?
Man, so it's funny. I had this kind of same question in my head, and I thought back to when we had Casey on from the Wonder Years. They did 2 albums back to back, Upsides and Suburbia. And they chose to open with the album that came out after, right, later in the sequence, because he said Came Out Swinging is the banger. The irony is, was it My Last Semester? off Upsides is also a banger, but like Came Out Swinging's the bigger one. So they chose in that example to literally come out swinging with the biggest song they probably have. Did they kind of shoot the shot too early? You know, would that have been better off in the middle with that big sing along
or close?
Or close, right?
Man,
and I know
the energy is going. Yeah,
they went in order, so it's tough with that. I would say, in general, blanket statement: don't open with an unknown. Don't open with your banger. Open with maybe an album opener that you put into your set. Maybe something like that.
All right.
Like Rage, maybe Bomb Track would get the crowd going. Maybe People the Sun. I don't know.
Yep. Yeah. People the Sun's a great start riff. Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much variability in this question. It's not even funny because I'm starting to like run through so many bands in my head. Like, if it's a punk band, like a pop punk band, like fucking high tempo, like jump right out of the gate, you know. But a band like Tool, I saw them on this most recent tour, and they opened with Fear Inoculum off of Fear Inoculum, and it's a perfect opening track because it's like you said, Twan, it's opening the record that they're promoting. A, B, it kind of just eases you into what's going to be a pretty complex and epic musical experience. So, and Pearl Jam, I know we mentioned them earlier, same thing. Like, they're kind of known for easing into the set with songs like Release and Pendulum, like slower. Let's get into this. We're about to go into like a 3.5, 4 hour marathon of songs and ease you into it rather than jump right into Spin the Black Circle or something. So I think it depends on the band, it depends on the legacy again, but genre especially, you know, pop punk or punk especially, I'd say let's just get into it. You know, you're already in a club, everyone's all riled up. But if you're like in a big arena or stadium for that matter, it really you almost have to set the mood and save the loud, fast tempo banger songs for midway to especially closing. Yeah, it just depends.
Well, I was just real quick. I was thinking of like take the Rage example. Like People the Sun would be a great one to open with because you get the da-na-na-na-na, and then people come up. You know, that would get people stoked on it. So maybe you lean into an instrument that comes out. Like I was almost thinking like Taking Back Sunday, like Your Lipstick, Your Collar. You know, would you start with that? Probably not, but that would get the crowd going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm looking back. I pulled up the set list of my top 3 shows from episode 84 where we did Concert Wars with Brian from Playlist Wars. And what I liked in the moment were my top 5 shows. And I wanted to look and see what they had played to open their sets. So like Bruce Springsteen played a cover, which is wild. U2 open with City of Blinding Lights, but that is the piano and the edge guitar. It's perfect. Like you can't not open with that. It makes complete sense.
That's an epic opening song.
Yeah, and it's on tour for that record, How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb. So it's new. And then Flaming Lips in a field in Oxford, Maine, Nate, in 2010. We saw them up there. They opened with a brand new song as well, The Fear, I think, which was off of Embryonic, maybe. But then you're right, in the middle, you get She Don't Use Jelly and the Yeah Yeah song, and In the Morning, The Magician, stuff like that. So it does make sense to put something out there that people know, maybe, but it doesn't need to be the banger, right? Like you don't want to. People maybe are getting to their seats, right? So you want to give them a chance to.
Yeah, and I think what you were saying just lends itself to like there's no one size fits all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For the band and for the fans, you know, and that's the thing is there's some fans that are getting dragged to the show because their spouse loves it, or they won tickets, or they're like Nate who's on board for the traveling circus. You know, you can't please everyone. All right, so let's talk real world example in 2022. So Clutch just rolled through Hampton Beach, New Hampshire, Casino Ballroom. A few days ago, about a week ago.
When this comes out, it's about a week. Yep.
Yeah, so that's a band with 30 years under the belt. They got 12 studio albums. They played 20 songs, and I looked at the set list because I was thinking about going. You and I both, Tony, were thinking about going. We just couldn't do it. They played 20 songs. And I think I'd be pleased with that. So I looked at the set list, and it's everything from Transnational and Elephant Riders all the way through like Psychic Warfare, and I think they hit like 9 of the albums, and a lot of them were just 1 or 2, but like that's a good way to please everyone.
Yep.
Because if you lean one way, like I don't know, if you lean heavy Earth Rocker versus, I don't know, Robot Hive, like you're going to get people pissed off.
Absolutely. That's a really good point. And that's a really good example because they have a legacy, but they're still playing relatively small to medium-sized venues where, you know, they're catering to clearly a very wide net for an audience. And I think that is a safe bet. I think for me as a fan, like, I'm happy, the new fan's happy, and the old fan is especially happy because they're collecting everything at that point. If there's any kind of benchmark for what is the way to do it, I think Clutch has nailed it on the head, which is hit a few songs from every album. Like, you know, everyone wants to hear something off the old stuff, but if you just focus on that, you're really doing a disservice for anyone onboarding at this point, but also you're not promoting shit, so you're not moving units either, right? So I think Clutch they've got it down to a science. You can tell just through their merch stream that they're hitting all the nails on the head. But 2 songs from each album, man, if that's what every band did, I think that's the way to essentially get your money's worth.
If you've got 12 albums to do that on, it makes sense.
Right.
And if you're trying to pull from you know, different levels of fandom, I saw them in Portland in October of last fall, and they played they played like 5 songs off of Blast Tyrant. So it's a little different. Not even 8 months ago, right? So they're cool about that too. Like they're gonna pull different songs from different records, but still give you the Clutch experience every night, which is pretty awesome. So they're a good example of that.
So little trivia for you guys. So take so Clutch, they've kind of had a steady all along. I'm gonna bring up a band that peaked maybe 20 years ago, and that's Limp Bizkit, who's touring right now. They have a 15-song set.
Oof.
What do you think the mix is? And that's a band that has, what, $3 Bill Yo, Significant Other, Chocolate Starfish.
Results
may vary. And then Questionable Truth.
Yep.
Maybe another one in there, and then the new one. Right, Still Sucks.
Gold Cobra. Yep.
Gold Cobra. There you go. So what do you think, like, how many Significant Other songs do you think they played out of the 15?
6.
Out of 15, 4.
They played 2.
Not enough. Sorry, guys.
How many $3 Bill Y'all songs?
None.
3?
1 with Faith.
1. Faith. Yeah. So really none.
Really none.
A cover.
So how many Chocolate Starfish songs?
3.
2.
7.
7
What?
chocolate. Okay, I'm okay with that actually because I like that record.
And then 4 Still Sucks. So like, if I go to that, I think I'm disappointed.
Yeah, I want more older stuff from them, especially at 15 songs. Like play 20 and give us 5 more older songs. Yeah.
Yep. Play
Stuck.
maybe 5 Significant Other stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Play Rearranged. Like, come on.
They played Break Stuff and Nookie.
Yeah. Play Rearranged. Play Don't Go Off Wandering. Play And Together Now. Come on, guys.
You do get Hot Dog though.
That's 46 fucks in this motherfucking song, or whatever it is, right?
Oh man,
Fred.
15. You lost me at 15 songs. Like that's for a band that's been around that long, and they're doing a disservice to themselves and the fans to even put a tour together. Like why such a short set? First and foremost,
people are going. They've moved to smaller venues, I think, right? But they're still going. There was a cool video of them with. Was it one of the guys from Scowl took it from the stage and jumped into the crowd we passed around? That was a pretty cool video.
Well, there's also a couple footnotes here which make the 15 even lighter, which is one of the 15 songs was a Ministry cover, which is just an instrumental.
Oh,
wow.
And then one of the 15 was also, what do we got here? Nookie up until the second chorus, and then they moved on to Full Nelson.
Oh,
with a fan on vocals.
So wait, Limp Bizkit really does still suck? Really leaning into the most hated band in the world 20 years later, huh?
Hey, has that Worcester date come by?
I think it's very soon. I think it's when this drops, probably a couple of days.
Hey, I'm going to look in the third-party sites, and if there's something cheap, I might have to.
You know what? Text me.
Just say I did it, because I've never seen them.
Let's just be either. Let's just do it. Let's just get it done. Let's just get it done.
I mean, I can't live in a world where I've never seen Dirty Rotten Biscuit live.
Agreed. I'm in that camp. Yeah.
Man.
I thought you were going to tell me that one of the songs was Wes Borland shitting on people asking for interviews at the end of that fucking track on Still Sucks. Like, I know people hit you up in the DMs, bro, but just ignore them. Everybody else does.
I thought one of the tracks was going to be the Limp Bizkit Taproot beef.
Ah, that'd be cool.
As chronicled on Podioslave. Nate played the fucking...
That's right.
Yeah.
And then we talked to Phil about it.
Yep. No copyright infringement there.
Oh, man. Good times.
Man. All original lineup with them.
Yeah, Twan, text me. If that happens and we can make a little ride, let's do it. Fuck it, let's do it.
Hey, Nate's seen him. I've never seen him. I don't think you've seen him, Tone, right?
I've never seen him. No. Nope.
I mean, I feel like now's the time. Like,
Yeah.
although I did see that they're writing again, which I don't know. Maybe some bands can do that while on tour. I don't know.
I would recommend going just to see Wes fucking wail live.
Yeah, I think that'd be fun. And I mean, the crowd looked like they were into it in that video,
Right.
so that'd be fun. It'd definitely be a good time.
So Nate, you said you've been thinking about this for weeks here. What other setlist thoughts do you have?
God, I have so many. We're kind of wrapping up here, so I'm just trying to think, like, in terms of the crescendo of a show, you know, you're watching the show, it's going amazing, and then you know at some point it's going to come to a close, but there's always that trickery, that fuckery that happens at a show, which is the encore.
Are the lights coming on? Are the lights going on?
Yeah.
What's going
This
on?
is the encore for this segment, too. This is perfect.
So, first of all, first question is it even a fucking encore? If it's written down, it's the whole, like, encore description is fans are rallying up like encore, and people come out and they're like, you know what, fuck it, let's play another few songs. But nowadays, encore is part of the program. Like, it's written in. It's, you got to make curfew. You don't want to pay fines to pay over curfew, so the encore is actually on the set list at this point. So it's kind of a two-part question, I guess. Is, you know, first of all, encore or no encore? Like, you're wasting time going off stage pretending it's an encore. So should you just fucking play the show, and you might even get an extra 2 songs out of it? So that's question one. And then 2, what are you encoring with? Are you playing your bangers? Are you playing covers? Are you playing, like, your ultimate deep cuts? Are you playing songs from the first record that are bona fide fan favorites? You know, what are you doing?
Man.
A lot to unpack.
Limp Bizkit encored with Snacky Poo. No, I'm just kidding.
Do they even encore with 15 songs and 2 of them not being theirs?
They did not.
Exactly.
So actually, that's a show that if I don't get an encore and the lights go on, I feel cheated.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
I think it all depends on the stature and size of the band. I think at this point, everyone expects an encore.
Yeah.
And here's the thing is, I think encores are cheesy. I think it's all the dog and pony show. It's all optics. But because they exist, now I want them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's why I think, what's the threshold? 1,500 cap, 1,200 cap. If you're at that level, I think you got to encore.
Agreed. Yep.
Unless you just played 20 songs. Unless you played 20 songs and you hit everything, I think you have to encore.
Yeah. I think I agree. It depends on the level of the band. If you have enough music to do this, do it. Don't make me wait 10 minutes. That's my only issue. Like, if you're going to go back and you got to piss, cool. Go take a piss. Go slug some water. Go get ready to play your 3-song fucking encore, which is going to take you 10 minutes. But don't make me wait 10 minutes for that 10 minutes, because it's like, I have to piss too. I might have to work in the morning. Like, you guys just get to go lounge in the bus. Like, you took all the money home. So just don't make me wait 10 minutes. But yeah, if you're a 1,500 cap room, it's probably going to be a 3-song encore, and it makes sense to just go out and come back on.
Yeah, I think encores are quintessential, mainly just to get more songs, like more bang for your buck. But in terms of, like, bands that have the opportunity to keep on keeping on, you know, Pearl Jam, for an example, like, they encore, and it's actually not part of the program. They just encore. I mean, I guess it is kind of, but then they'll do a second encore. In some cases, they'll do a third encore. So they really are reacting to the crowd, which is really fucking cool. And they'll break curfew, but they have the luxury to pay fines, you know? So it doesn't really matter. And that's why they're able to play 4 hours. Like, crowd's fucking stoked. Let's play another 8 songs. Like, I don't know any other band that can pull that off in today's world. But medium-sized bands, or really anyone, like, if I was in a band, I'd want to keep playing, but I also want to do 5-hour podcasts. So
Right.
And 7 a week, right? Once a week
Yeah.
for Nate. Once a day for Nate.
Yeah.
You know what this made me realize is, so we did the Wheel of Touring with Greg, which is a great behind the scenes of like being a road dog. What I'd love to do is a wheel of like being on stage and like that element of how much can you really think on your feet versus, hey, we have a script, which is the set list. You know what I mean? Stuff like that.
Yeah, that'd be a fun couple questions.
Yeah, I think. I mean, let's take theater level bands. If you're a headliner, you have to encore.
Yeah.
Actually, let's flip this on its head. How would you react if an opener did an encore? You'd say, "Who the fuck are you?"
Right. Yeah. Wait, you just left, and we thought you had 30 minutes. Like, we like you. Maybe we're there for the opener. I've been at shows for the opener, but they don't typically get an encore. So.
Well, you guys always kind of tout the Beck opening for Beck. Like,
Yeah.
does he encore for himself?
I don't know if he played an encore. Let me look that up. I think he might have, but he did. He played a set of Beck songs and then took like a 10-minute break and then played a set of Beck songs. Like, it was pretty wild.
Well, that was a unique situation because the tour was promoted as Beck Acoustic, and then it changed to Beck. And so he still did the acoustic element and played a set of acoustic and then a set of regular set, basically.
Still pretty wild. He opened for himself.
Yeah. Scientology and all. Not that it has anything to do with it, but
That was 28 songs with a 2-song encore. Pretty cool. Two 13-song sets and then two songs in the encore. Billed as electric and full band acoustic.
All right, real world example to close us out here. You go see Deftones 2022 headlining tour. The encore is Lotion in Engine Number 9. Are you satisfied?
Engine Number 9, definitely, because that song is full on banger.
I'm sure you got to know what the rest of the set list was, but
Yeah, I was going to say, I need to know the rest of the set list.
all right, they had already played Be Quiet and Drive, My Own Summer, Change, Rosemary, Bloody Cape, Knife Party, Beware Sex Tape. They'd hit most of the Diamond Eyes. Like, are you upset they don't hit Minerva?
No, that's okay. I want more from Coy, I think, is probably the only thing I'd say there. But, like, I get why it wouldn't be part of an encore. That's just me being a deep dive nerd fan.
Yeah, I think that's a Deftones chess move in let's close with 2 tracks off of Adrenaline and just close that. Make sure we're satisfying the old school fans that are here from, 95? Because they're playing arenas on this run, so it's kind of unusual for them.
Yeah.
Are you upset they don't play Back to School?
No, I get that.
I would love to hear that song live. I'm not upset, but they don't play it much, so it would be kind of a unique, like, oh, wow, they're actually pulling this one out of the bag.
I don't like it. I get it.
Yeah,
Are you
it's a
upset
great
they
song.
only played 2 songs off the new album?
Yes. Definitely.
Yeah, I'd want, at this point, 2 years in, I'd want,
I think it's Light, right?
yeah,
That's
I'd want
Light.
4, probably. But only because they haven't been able to play them. Like, play 4 songs. Play 22 songs and play 4 of them. You know? I don't know. That's a me thing. And you say that because you're going to go see them, Tuan, right?
I know. Well, it's funny. You made a great comment earlier, Tone, which is watching a YouTube video is very different than going to see a band live. That's why you buy tickets to a live show. And I know we have great seats.
You'll enjoy it, yeah.
And we'll have a blast. I'm going with my dad, so it'll be fun.
Oh, yeah. Friend of the pod, Slick Rick. Thank you. Thank you
Shout
for
out.
all the support.
One love.
Man, we could keep going. I mean, we've gone now for close to an hour. We could totally keep going on this this topic and really just kind of bang this out for another hour and give you an encore if we wanted to. Maybe you'll hear one down the road.
The fake encore, yeah.
I think that's a good spot to wrap.
Yeah, no, that was a great one. That was I wrote down all sorts of different tidbits, and really with that one, I was trying to time travel to actually being at a show, being like, oh wow, this is what I wanted to see, or this is what I wanted to hear, or in many cases, just being a geek and a nerd, like leaving shows thinking, man, I really wanted to hear this, but ultimately you just can't get everything. But if you're getting a good mix of everything, I think Clutch is a great example of, the right way to do it. As long as you're getting what you need, a lot of bands are touring to promote the newest album. That's just the reality of it. It's what the engine's actually for. People seem to forget that, myself included. But this was a good exercise just to kind of unpack it again.
Well, hey, we appreciate you tuning in, legacy fans, new fans. Like we always kind of try to weave in the episodes, all the legacy guests that we've had. It's all on podioslave.com. You can hit us up on the socials. Instagram is at Podioslave, Twitter at Podioslave. Email us too. Like we said, old school snail mail, we'll respond. PodioslavePodcast@gmail.com.
And Facebook. We're on Facebook.
Oh, that's right. Facebook.
Yeah. No, we finally made a Facebook. Man, it's 2010, right? We have a Facebook, Podioslave Podcast. Just check it out. You type that in, go to pages, you'll find it. And we've, most of the stuff you'll see from us is going to be there too. So we answer all of it. If you want to talk to us, we are very, many of our fans and friends and nerds alike have hit us up, and we've answered just about everybody. So can't say we don't, and we love doing this, and that's the reason why. And we'll be, Twan, like you said, we'll be back next week, right?
Big things in the works. Stay tuned.
We'll open up MySpace, LiveJournal, Tumblr,
Friendster.
No, just kidding. All right, cheers, nerds.
Peace, podheads.